That dress isn't leaving this house, and neither are you, Korean mafia boss told his black wife. 24 days of silence can destroy a marriage faster than any betrayal. Natalia Bay understood this truth as she fastened the clasp of her diamond earrings, watching her reflection shift in the vanity mirror. The woman staring back looked dangerous tonight. Crimson lips, smoky eyes, bare shoulders except for the thin straps of a dress that cost more than most people earned in 3 months. Red, the color of passion, of warning, of everything her husband hadn't noticed in nearly a month. Choi Hyung-bae hadn't looked at her properly in 24 days. She'd counted every single one. Their penthouse had transformed into a museum of unspoken words, each room echoing with conversations they refused to have. He'd moved into the guest suite the night after their confrontation, though confrontation was too generous a word for what happened. There had been no screaming, no thrown objects, no dramatic door slams, just Hyung-bae's face going completely blank when he overheard her phone conversation with Rosalind Gonzalez. Then the quiet click of a door closing between them. That click might as well have been a gunshot. Since then, he'd perfected the art of existing in the same space without acknowledgement. Breakfast in the kitchen while she was still asleep, late nights at the office that stretched past midnight, messages delivered through his assistant, Anders Reese, rather than directly, cold politeness on the rare occasions their paths crossed, the kind of courtesy you'd extend to a stranger in an elevator. It was destroying her. Tonight, though, she had somewhere to be. Her college reunion had been circled on the calendar for months, back when things between them were still warm, still alive, back when Hyung-bae would have helped zip up this dress, his fingers lingering on her spine, his breath hot against her neck as he whispered all the reasons she should stay home instead. Natalia stood, smoothing the fabric over her hips. The dress fit like it had been painted on, which was exactly the point. Let him ignore this. Her heels clicked against the marble as she descended the grand staircase, each step deliberate. The chandelier above cast light across the foyer, and somewhere in the house she could hear the low murmur of Hyung-bae's voice, probably on yet another phone call that was more important than his wife. But then the voice stopped. She was halfway down when she felt it, the weight of his gaze, heavy as a physical touch. Her fingers tightened on the banister, but she didn't look up, didn't give him the satisfaction, just kept moving, kept breathing, kept pretending her heart wasn't trying to hammer its way out of her chest. "Where do you think you're going dressed like that?" His voice cut through the silence like a blade, low, dangerous, edged with something she hadn't heard in weeks. Natalia paused, one foot hovering over the final step. Slowly, she raised her eyes to find Hyung-bae standing in the doorway of his study, shoulders filling the frame, arms crossed over his chest. He looked furious. Good. Out. She stepped down onto the marble, meeting his stare without flinching. "My college reunion, remember? It's been on the calendar for 3 months. Like hell you are." Hyung-bae moved then, crossing the distance between them with the predatory grace that had first drawn her to him 7 years ago. Back when he was just another ambitious business student with dangerous connections and eyes that promised everything. Before the empire, before the power, before everything got so complicated, before she'd said those words she couldn't take back. He stopped 2 feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke and something uniquely him. Close enough to touch, but the air between them crackled with 24 days of unspoken rage. "You're not walking out of this house dressed like that. Not to see a bunch of people who will spend the entire night staring at you." Natalia laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut. "Now you care what I wear. Now you notice I exist." "Don't test me tonight, Natalia." "Or what?" She stepped closer, invading his space the way he'd invaded hers. "You'll give me the silent treatment? Oh wait, you've been doing that for 24 days already. Tell me, Hyungbae, how exactly will I know the difference?" A muscle jumped in his jaw. Those dark eyes of his swept down her body, lingering on the plunging neckline, the curve of her waist, the dangerous slit that showed too much thigh. When his gaze returned to her face, something feral burned there. Who are you dressing up for? Maybe someone who will actually look at me, someone who will touch me, someone who won't act like I'm a ghost in my own house. The words hung between them, loaded and lethal. Hyungbae's hands flexed at his sides, and Natalia watched the war play out across his face, fury and hurt and possessive rage, all tangled together into something explosive. "You don't mean that." "Don't I?" She grabbed her clutch from the foyer table, her movements sharp with frustration. "You haven't said more than 10 words to me in weeks. You won't eat with me, won't sleep in the same room, won't even look at me unless you absolutely have to. So forgive me if I'm a little curious about what it might feel like to be wanted again." She turned toward the door, her hand reaching for the handle. Hyungbae moved faster than thought. One second she was walking away, the next she was pinned against the marble column beside the entrance, his body pressed against hers, his hands bracketing her face. The clutch clattered to the floor, forgotten. "Don't." His voice was ragged now, all that careful control shredding at the edges. His breath was hot against her lips, their faces so close she could count his eyelashes. Natalia's chest heaved, her back pressed against cool marble, every nerve ending suddenly violently alive after weeks of numbness. "Don't what?" she whispered. "Don't leave. Don't want to feel something again. Don't get tired of being invisible." Hyungbae's thumb traced her cheekbone, achingly gentle despite the fury radiating from him. "You were never invisible." "Then why?" Her voice cracked. "Why have you been treating me like I don't exist?" His jaw clenched. For a moment she thought he'd retreat again, rebuild those walls he'd constructed so carefully between them. But then something shifted in his expression, pain breaking through anger like light through storm clouds. "Because I heard you, Natalia, on the phone with Rosalind." Each word seemed dragged from somewhere deep. "You said you felt trapped, that this marriage was suffocating you, that you didn't know how much longer you could handle it." He stopped, throat working as he swallowed hard. If you've made it this far, you might as well like and subscribe. Think of it as supporting the channel while we dive deeper into what happened next. Now, back to the story. Understanding crashed over her like ice water. "You heard that? That's why you've been shutting me out?" She pressed her palms against his chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath the crisp fabric of his shirt. "Hyungbae, you didn't hear the rest of the conversation." "I heard enough." His hands slid down to her shoulders, fingers tightening. "I heard my wife tell her best friend she wanted out." "No!" Natalia shook her head, tears pricking her eyes. "That's not what I meant at all." "Then what did you mean?" The question came out broken, "because I've been losing my mind trying to figure out what I did wrong, trying to give you space, trying to prepare myself for the day you actually leave." Her heart shattered. This man, this powerful, dangerous man who commanded empires and inspired fear in hardened criminals, looked absolutely terrified of losing her.
"I felt trapped by your walls, you idiot, not by our marriage." She cupped his face, forcing him to maintain eye contact. "You started shutting me out months ago, working later, sharing less, building this distance between us. I told Rosalind I felt trapped outside your life, not trapped in our marriage. I've been dying for you to let me back in." Hyungbae went very still. "What?" "Every time I tried to ask about your day, you'd deflect. Every time I suggested we take a weekend away, you had urgent business. You started treating me like an obligation instead of your wife." The tears spilled over now. "I felt trapped on the wrong side of the walls you built. I wasn't talking about leaving you. I was talking about feeling like I'd already lost you." His eyes closed. When they opened again, they were glassy with unshed tears. "I thought I was protecting you. From what? From the reality of what I do, the violence, the politics, the constant danger." His forehead dropped to hers. "Things have been escalating with the Kieran Kennedy operation. I didn't want you touched by any of it. Didn't want you to look at me and see a monster. So you just disappeared on me instead?" "I thought I was being noble." A bitter laugh escaped him. "Turns out I was just being a coward." Natalia's fingers threaded through his hair, tucking slightly. "You absolute fool. I married you knowing exactly who you are. I don't need protection from your world. I need you to stop shutting me out of it." "I thought I was losing you." His voice broke completely. "These 24 days have been hell. Every morning I woke up terrified it would be the day you packed your bags. Every night I lay awake knowing you were just down the hall, but might as well have been on another planet." "You were losing me," she admitted, "just not the way you thought. I was drowning in your silence." Hyung-bae pulled back slightly, his hands framing her face like she was something precious and fragile. "I'm sorry. God, Natalia, I'm so sorry. I was so sure you wanted space that I gave you an ocean. And then tonight, seeing you in this dress, looking so beautiful it hurts to breathe, about to walk into a room full of people who would kill for a chance at what I've been taking for granted. There's only one man I want," she interrupted, "but he's been sleeping in the guest room for 24 days. Something shifted in his expression. The fear melted away, replaced with heat that made her knees weak. His gaze dropped to her lips, then lower, tracking the plunging neckline of her dress with undisguised hunger. "This dress," he murmured, voice going rough. "Were you really wearing it for them?" "No," she smiled slightly. "I was wearing it for you. One last desperate attempt to make you see me again."
"I see you." His thumb brushed her lower lip. "I've seen every inch of you for 7 years, and I'm still not satisfied, still starving for more." "Then stop starving yourself," she arched against him. "Stop punishing us both." Hyung-bae made a sound low in his throat, half growl, half surrender. Then his mouth crashed against hers. 24 days of desperate longing poured into one searing kiss. Natalia gasped against his lips, her body igniting like he'd struck a match to gasoline. This was what she'd been craving, not the polite distance, not the careful avoidance, this raw, consuming need that had always burned between them. His hands were everywhere, tangling in her hair, sliding down her spine, gripping her waist like he was afraid she'd evaporate. She kissed him back with equal ferocity, pouring 24 days of hurt and loneliness and desperate love into every movement. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Hyung-bae rested his forehead against hers. His chest heaved against her body, and she could feel his heart racing as fast as her own. "The reunion," she whispered, though the words felt meaningless now. "Forget the reunion." His lips traced her jaw, sending shivers down her spine. "You're not going anywhere tonight." "Possessive much?" "When it comes to you," he pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "Always, especially when you're wearing a dress designed to start wars." Natalia couldn't help the laugh that bubbled up. "It worked, didn't it? Got you talking to me again." Dangerous game you were playing. His hands slid down to her hips, thumbs tracing small circles through the thin fabric. "What if I'd actually let you walk out that door?" "Then I would have spent the entire night miserable, checking my phone every 5 minutes, hoping you'd call." She traced the line of his jaw. "I don't want anyone else, Hyung-bae. I never have. I just wanted my husband back." Something in his expression crumbled. "I've been such an idiot." Yes, you have, she kissed him softly. But so have I. I should have confronted you directly instead of venting to Rosalind where you might overhear. I should have asked you what you meant instead of assuming the worst and shutting down. He sighed heavily. We're both disasters at communication. Clearly. Her fingers worked at his tie, loosening it. Maybe we should practice getting better at it. Starting when? His voice dropped an octave as she slid the tie free. Starting after you take me upstairs and show me exactly how much you've missed me. Hyung-bae's eyes darkened. In one fluid motion, he swept her up into his arms, cradling her against his chest like she weighed nothing. Natalia yelped, then laughed, wrapping her arms around his neck. "What are you doing?" Making up for 24 days of stupidity. He headed for the staircase. Fair warning, this might take a while. I've got all night. She pressed her lips to his throat, feeling his pulse jump. And tomorrow and the day after that.
Good. He took the stairs 2 at a time, his strength effortless. Because I plan to spend significant time worshiping every inch of this dress, and then even more time getting you out of it. He'd pulled low in her stomach. I like this plan. You'll love the execution. He shouldered through the door to their bedroom. Their actual bedroom, not the guest suite he'd been exiling himself to. The space felt almost foreign after weeks of sleeping alone, but familiar in all the ways that mattered. Their books on the nightstand, her perfume on the dresser, his watch collection in the corner. Evidence of a shared life she'd been terrified of losing. Hyung-bae set her down gently beside the bed, his hands immediately finding her waist again, like he couldn't bear to stop touching her. I meant what I said earlier. You were never invisible to me. Then why did it feel that way? Because I'm an idiot who thought distance would keep you safe. He traced the strap of her dress with one finger. Every time I looked at you, I wanted to tell you everything, every dangerous deal, every threat, every nightmare. But I convinced myself that knowing less would protect you more. Protect me from what? Being your partner? She covered his hand with hers. I didn't marry you to be kept in the dark. I married you to be by your side through everything. Even the ugly parts? Especially those. She turned his hand over, tracing the scar across his palm from a knife fight years ago. You think I don't know what your world looks like? I see the guards, the encrypted phones, the late-night meetings. I'm not naive, Hyung-bae. I just want to be included. He was quiet for a long moment, studying their intertwined hands. The Kennedy operation has been pushing into our territory. There have been threats, violence. 2 of my men, including Monica Bauer's brother, ended up in the hospital last month. I know. At his startled look, she smiled sadly. I have eyes. I notice when you come home with blood on your cuffs, even after you've tried to wash it off. I notice when you take calls at 3 in the morning and come back to bed tense. I notice everything about you. Why didn't you say anything? Because you clearly didn't want to talk about it. Her voice softened. I kept waiting for you to trust me enough to open up. Instead, you just pulled further away. Hyung-bae cupped her face, his expression anguished. I trust you with my life. I just didn't want to burden you with the weight of it all. Marriage means carrying that weight together. She leaned into his touch. Your burdens are mine. Your dangers are mine. Your world is mine because I chose it. I chose you knowing exactly what came with it. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she smiled, but you're stuck with me anyway. Promise? The vulnerability in his voice nearly broke her. I promise. She rose on her toes, brushing her lips against his. No more secrets, no more distance, no more sleeping in separate rooms and pretending we're okay when we're falling apart. No more, he agreed roughly. From now on, we face everything together. Everything, she confirmed. His kiss was different this time, slower, deeper, weighted with promise and apology and desperate relief. Natalia melted into it, into him, feeling 24 days of ice finally thaw between them.
Hours later, Natalia lay tangled in sheets that smelled like them, sweat and perfume, and the aftermath of desperation finally satisfied. Young Bae's arm was draped across her waist, his chest pressed against her back, his breathing steady and warm against her neck. The city lights filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across their bedroom. Everything felt different now, lighter, like they'd finally broken through to the other side of something that had been suffocating them both. "You awake?" Young Bae's voice was rough with exhaustion. "Barely," she laced her fingers through his. "You wore me out." "Good." He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "I have 24 days to make up for. That was just the beginning." She laughed softly, snuggling deeper into his embrace. "I'm holding you to that." They lay in comfortable silence for a moment, just breathing together, existing in the same space without walls or distance or fear. "Tell me about Kennedy," Natalia said quietly. "Please, I want to know what's been keeping you up at night." Young Bae tensed slightly behind her, but didn't pull away. "Progress. The Kennedy operation has been making moves into our shipping routes. They want control of the port access we've maintained for a decade." "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that I've had to triple security. Bad enough that I've been carrying a weapon even inside the house." He paused. "Bad enough that I was terrified they might use you to get to me." She turned in his arms to face him. "Is that why you pushed me away?" "Partly." His hand cupped her cheek. "I thought if they saw distance between us, you'd be less of a target. Idiotic logic, I know. Extremely idiotic." She kissed his palm. "If anything, me being isolated and alone would have made me more vulnerable." "I realize that now." He looked pained. "I wasn't thinking clearly, just reacting out of fear." "So what's the plan? How do we handle Kennedy?" His eyebrows rose. "We?"
"Yes, we," she poked his chest. "You just promised we're a team, partners in everything. So what's our strategy?" Young Bae studied her face, something like wonder crossing his features. "You really want to be involved in this?" "I really want my husband to stop treating me like I'm made of glass." She sat up slightly, the sheet pooling around her waist. "I can handle knowing about the dangers. What I can't handle is being kept in the dark while you shoulder everything alone." He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "We're negotiating. There's a meeting scheduled in 3 days. Neutral territory. Brianna Weeks and Rosemary Lawson are mediating. If we can come to terms on territory division, the violence stops. And if you can't, then things escalate." His jaw tightened, "which is why I've been so stressed. Every decision I make affects not just me, but you, our people, our future." "Then let me help you make those decisions." She threaded her fingers through his hair. "Two heads are better than one, and I'm smarter than you give me credit for." "I know exactly how smart you are." He pulled her back down against him. "That's not the issue. The issue is me being a controlling idiot who thought isolation equaled protection." "Reformed idiot," she teased. "Working on it." He kissed her temple. "I promise to include you from now on, in everything. The good, the bad, the dangerous. That's all I ask." She traced patterns on his chest. "Well, that, and for you to never sleep in the guest room again." "Never again," he agreed fervently. "I'd rather sleep on the floor in here than spend another night in that room without you." "The reunion's probably over by now," she murmured eventually. "Shame." Young Bae didn't sound sorry at all. "You're not sorry I missed seeing all my old friends. Worth it," she grinned. "I'd rather spend the night reconciling with my husband than reminiscing with people I haven't talked to in years." "Even in that incredible red dress?" "The dress served its purpose. Got your attention, didn't it?" "You always have my attention." He brushed hair back from her face. "Even when I'm being an idiot and pretending otherwise. You're all I think about, Natalia. All I want, all I need." "Then show me." She pulled him closer again. His laugh was low and warm. "Demanding tonight, aren't you?" "I have 24 days of demands." Her smile turned wicked. "Hope you're prepared." Young Bae kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. "Always." And as the city lights painted shadows across their intertwined bodies, both of them knew they'd survived the storm, stronger together, exactly as they were always meant to be.